Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday Focus. My name is Jake Cunningham, your host, and this weekly webinar series is designed to help our community, whether you are in the healing arts, whether you are a corporate executive, whether you are a client of one of your practitioners that referred you. This is a universal call to help us at the end of the week, the man-made law week, let's call that, the man-made illusion of a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Well, we do operate in this illusion. So at the end of this illusion, we want to recalibrate, reconnect, reflect what's going on from the past, look into where we are now, and set the tone for the future. That's the design and the focus and the reason behind the Friday Focus. It gives you that reconnection, reminding you you're not alone, and that really we're all in this together. And that's a segue into what our focus is today, and that is discovering and tapping into what it really takes to find joyous and thriving and fulfilling relationships. And whether you are in the professional world of service and healing arts, where you provide these wonderful tools and programs and gifted knowledge and coaching, or you are a recipient looking to enhance your own personal well-being and your family's life, we all know the value of relationships, whether it's a relationship with your intimate spouse, your lover, or your children or your parents, or in the professional environment, your colleagues. And we see this in our greater society and communities, and how the communication and relationship building, what happens when we're not connected. We see this in Baltimore today. We see it. I'm not going political on us right yet, but we see this around, and I am just honored. And there's no, I think, better, not examples and role models, but for me, I can personally say that because the guests, David and Erina Cowan of Blue Sun Energetics, are here with us today, and they are not only mentors for many of us that you are familiar with. Their programs and themselves, actually, as individuals living in where I grew up, Boulder, Colorado, these are mentors and personal coaches in my life, and for my wife, Lisa, and myself, and being students of theirs too. It's very, very personal, my connection. Even though we haven't been connected in the last year, I'm excited to get back reconnected with them and also learn what's new with them, but concept of establishing really strong relationships. So with that said, I'm going to pass the ball, and David and Erina, welcome. Thank you for joining us today on this Friday morning.
Oh, thank you, Jake. It's our pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Very happy to be with you.
And I know that there's been a lot of, transition in the world of the last couple years, and there's been, whether it's specific to our niche industries or in our personal lives. But if you don't mind, kind of reintroducing yourself, telling us just a little bit about your backgrounds, where you guys come from, for the audience who may not be familiar with you. And that will be a starting grounding point of today's interview and focus.
Okay, you want to go first?
Oh, beauty before age.
Okay, all right. So anyway, I'd like to first of all say that it's funny to even say there's a transition that's been going on these last few years. What an understatement, right?
I know.
For all of us and for the globe. And so, yes, we just see changes. Definitely what's at hand, and we're all in it. And so just a quick background on myself. I raised a family, immersed myself in philosophical studies throughout my life, and a variety of energetic and spiritual practices. I was a physician assistant in functional medicine for a while, moved into energetic medicine with, first of all, quantum biofeedback, and working with pendulums, and working alongside with David, creating a system that's quite powerful and quick and efficient using a pendulum. We call it mind field repatterning. And just kind of evolved into where we're at today, which is really understanding that at the core of everything is relationship. We're in one relationship with ourself, with life, with God, everything at God, spirit, divine, whatever we want to call that. That's core. Everything else springs from that. And it seems like we're in relationships with different things, but it's really all the same. So I think everything I've studied and played with and with family and work has led me to probably this point, is that we need to understand the mind to know the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
David?
Well said.
Well stated. Yes.
Yeah, well said. So Dave, what's your background? Where do you in the world or other world do you come from?
Good question.
Good question. As a matter of fact, I just had an interview with a contactee who told me where I was coming from, but that's a whole other subject. Well, I guess my journey has been one of discovery as well, and moving through different phases of understanding and practice, working with the technology, as you know, and really, as you said, a time of transition. And I feel that this time for myself and probably for everyone on this call, we've been in a stage of preparation. We've been learning our lessons. We've been coming home to ourselves, learning what's really important in the world and in life, but with a sense of being prepared for something new. And as most of you are likely aware, there was a transition point, December 21st, 2012, which many of us were expecting to be a magical poof moment. But our sense, and it's a growing sense now, is that we are in that transition, that we have entered a new era of time, a new era of experience and opportunity, and we're just getting our first glimmers of what that really means. So as far as our work together goes and my journey in this life, it is about bringing together the learning and the understanding and keeping the jewels, the gold of those experiences from the past, but letting all the rest go. There's so much of what we've learned and experienced that doesn't necessarily apply to where we're headed. And distilling those lessons and those learnings into a focal point of purpose. And as Erina said, our purpose together is to explore and share what we've been shown in the areas of the healing arts. And coming back to the mind. And I have to say that the underlying theme of our life together and our journeys as we continue has been A Course in Miracles. And this was a discovery that we made early in our relationship of a way of seeing and thinking that could be summarized as non-duality. And non-duality is simply a way of navigating through what appears to be a world of challenge, a world of illusions and opposites and conflicts, and being able to move to a third position in our appreciation of what's actually going on here. So, I mean, that's a whole other world of discussion, but it does underlie our understanding of why we're here, what we have to offer and share, and where we're all going collectively. We are moving away from individual pathways and individual timelines as being our primary focus into a unified field. And in that sense, we're called upon to let go of many of the things that keep us separate, right? Many of the beliefs and fears and imprints, but we're also being offered an opportunity to embrace a greater sense of what relationship really means.
Well said. And so you've answered this question, the first question I have for you, directly and indirectly, but I want to specifically ask you why you've chosen some of your work to be specially focused on relationships. What does, what drove that focus? You answered some of that, but please expand on that specific focus of some of the, of course, work you're now doing.
Well, really, to just expand on what we both shared, is that we have in our work together, our work, our relationship, learning together, learning with, we've learned that all the energetic devices we've played around with and everything that we do externally is actually simply an extension of where we're at internally on the level of mind, where we're at with relationship with, again, self, with the divine. And there's nothing separate from that. And what we have found is that we can work on specific areas, you know, in the healing arts and so forth. If we focus on a specific area of healing and we don't bring it back to what's going on in here, we're just treating symptoms.
Right.
Whether that's a relationship having an issue, or we're having financial problems, or there's a physical issue going on, bless you. It all goes back to what's happening in here, and I'm going to see and experience what is reflected back to me from that state of being, and that's about relationships. So we found that when we just cut to the chase, and again, as David said, Course in Miracles really was our driving factor that brought us to this level of understanding. Everything else we do, working with a pendulum, working with any devices, we understand that all of them, anything we do, any modality, is to help us release stress patterns, get to a sense of feeling peaceful and whole. And in that moment, we recognize who we are and our connection with all that is. That's relationship, and that's the heart of it. So every other modality serves to bring us back to that place of experience. And that's how we all heal, and that's how we are creating this unified field in our awareness together.
Well said. And so, Dave, thank you, Erina. That helped share a little bit where that focus came from, but the value and why it's so important. So, Dave, here's a specific question for you. What are some of the results people have, and you can both answer this, of course, but what are some of the results people have experienced? And I'll share my own testimony later on the call, but share with us some of the results and the profound shift, transformation some of your students, people have had from connecting to this this valuable, like, awakening body of information and practice, really, of what you guys are sharing. What are some, give us some examples of how it's made a difference in people's lives.
Well, of course, you know, our clients come to us for a variety of reasons, and many of them come because they've exhausted other means, and they're often dealing with chronic issues. And we have found that by redirecting their attention, as Erina said, away from the symptom, away from the condition, and looking for the deeper level of cause within, that in many cases they're able to discover the thought, the belief, the memory, the emotion, whatever it is they're holding on to, that is holding that pattern in place. And we've had many examples of, you know, pain relief, life situations changing, of relationships coming into a greater sense of harmony. And those kinds of things we've actually learned to take almost for granted, because we recognize that there really is a simple solution to all of these complex issues, and that is to come back to the responsibility of how did I create this for myself. I call that switch, that inner switch. It's almost like a developmental phase where we start out looking at all of these things coming to us from outside, because that's what our senses report, right? This happened to me, this is going on for me. And we flip around and we go within. I call it flipping in instead of flipping out, right? We spend a lot of energy flipping out and reacting to the world. But when we hit that
flipping
point
off, and then ultimately flipping everything off.
That's right.
In a way, but go ahead. I'm with you, and
I like that.
Continue. But from the inside is, again, I'm well said. I'm following you loud and clear. Go ahead.
So that is what we call the miracle, when people come home to themselves and take responsibility for their experience, not in a judgmental way or to condemn themselves, but to liberate themselves, to realize that if I do change my mind, about this situation, about this memory, about this relationship, that I get what I want. The outer does change, but I've put the inner first. You know, and this is nothing new. We're talking ancient wisdom here, the Hermetic law, as within, so without, not the other way around. So that's what we have been privileged to observe in folks that have worked with us or that come to our classes, and it can show up in a variety of forms.
Right.
You know, we're not really as attached to how it looks in the world, but there is a recognition, an inner recognition when that miracle occurs, because not only do people come home to themselves, but they come home to the realization that we share the same self on that level. And that's the healing of the relationships with ourself and the world and others, is when we start to recognize on a much simpler, more fundamental level that there's only one of us here.
Mm-hmm.
And I only ever experience myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and we're here to learn what that self is.
Absolutely. And I think the universal student base for and the I think you just made me think of something, and why it's so important for the gifted mentor, healer, practitioner, let's call it that influential entity, and that influence in the professional and the personal realm, the leader of that, not leader in terms of but that coach, that mentor, why they need to continue to discover and work on themselves. Because you're right, it's a getting, and what I mean by this is some of the practitioners in the field I work in that you guys are familiar with, they're looking outside of themselves for the next tool or the next instrument or the next greatest update or upgrade or this. And that political thing happened and it affects now my success. And that person said this and now I'm not able to succeed. So the value for the professionals, what I'm saying, and I'll get more literal, is the discovering and living it so they can walk it. Because I believe, from my experience, I buy in and I become a believer when I see my mentors live it. Yeah. Right? It's the same old thing. We know when there's authentic truth, and most people do. I think that's something that has not left the human condition. We are in tune with, okay, that guy's for real, that lady believes in what she's doing. Do I agree with it or not? That's irrelevant, but they're true to themselves. They know that they're in control and empowered. But there's a quote I had that I just found. I have all these little books around because I'm a sponge, and also why the focus call, I get to learn from the best minds in the industry like yours. But here's an old good mind, author Ralph Waldo Emerson. We're familiar with Mr. Ralph. And he says, and it's on kindness, but again, joy and relationships. It is one of the most beautiful compensations in life. We can never help another without helping ourselves. And you can look at that both ways. Without helping ourselves, right? Discovering that we need to nurture ourselves first before we can help anyone else. I thought that was relevant for the discussion. Most people are familiar with that gentleman and his influence in writings. But that's something I'm just really happy to reconnect with you two, because I think it's more prevalent, and I'm seeing a shift of out of this reawakening phase into now people are starting to apply what they woke up to. Yep. You know? And I think there's a more need for the work you guys are doing now. It's more relevant than ever. I'm seeing it too in the biofeedback biz, that people have discovered through the transition, wait a second, I do have everything I need. I don't need, you know what I mean? I can do this. I don't need a company to tell me I can. No, wait a second. And I think by sharing and having people who, like yourselves, on to see it, hear it, connect, it's important. But it's still really important to tune into the knowledge and the practicum that you guys have done through your own experience, and you guys live it. You consciously work to treat each other with respect. I've been around you in personal settings. I've been around you when we're off air, so to speak, and you want to, like, you picked up the guitar before this and jammed. I've been to your home, and that is the leadership we need in this community as well as beyond, that will heal relationships. So with that said, there's something that many people may or may not be familiar with dowsing, but how do you integrate the principle, and maybe brief us on the dowsing principle for those who aren't aware, who've joined us for the first time on the focus call. For those of you who are familiar with the dowsing technique, the philosophy, how that taps into the matrix, how does it work with relationships for you guys? I mean, how does it tie into the theme and the focus of today? Go ahead.
Well, David's going to share that with us, but I just wanted to add, I just loved what you were sharing, Jake, including the quote that you shared and everything we've just been dialoguing. And I just wanted to mention one other aspect of that, which I think is really, to me, a wonderful thing to pay attention to is, yes, for professionals out there, and not just professionals, for all of us, with our family relationships, with all of our relationships. When we walk the talk by working on ourselves, by realizing we're responsible for everything we're experiencing and not pinning it on anyone else or anything outside of ourselves, and we truly are devoted to doing what it takes to be kind and loving to ourselves, giving ourselves time each day to focus on getting into that peaceful place, etc., in different ways, and feed that, we're carrying a vibration that acts like a beacon on this planet to those that we are in relationship with, to our clients, and really to the whole. Each one of us is like a neuron in a brain that's waking up. And when we focus out there on all these other neurons, there is chaos, there's confusion, and nothing's lighting up. When we put the attention within ourselves on our own light and just want to share that peace, we are helping everyone else on this globe tap into that light. They start getting signals, they don't even know where it's coming from. So a practitioner that has a client walk in, their very vibration is dictating the level of possible results of that session.
Right. And that's being proven now with science, in terms of now just recently only in the last, 50, 60, 70 years, we've been able to, let's call it the conventional scientific community, of being able to measure and data and quantify. They're actually, with the structure and the man-made laws that they've created to understand, that's actually being proven, that the influence and the conscious intention influences results. So that just ties into what you were saying. But it's profound, and it's almost so simple, but simplicity is not easy.
Exactly. Well said.
I mean, no, but think about in more of a logic, real world, corporate America. Let's just say Apple, right? Macintosh. Why are they so influential and they're so attractive? They've taken something so complex and messy and data this, and they've simplified their user face, and that's not easy. And so something so simple like this, like, oh, you mean I'm in control of my life? Well, that's too easy.
Yeah, you're right.
You kidding me?
Show me the complicated version.
Sure. And it's not, but again, it's the actions speak louder than any words. As cliche as that is, it's true. And but knowing that, and also understanding we are human, we're not perfect. When we do fall into that reactive mode, it's almost, I look at it like a muscle you have to actually exercise too. And sometimes you need a personal trainer to right, a coach, a learning body of information like the Course of Miracles,
Yeah.
Right.
the soulful communication class I took with Lisa that transformed us. And I was joking with her. I wanted to have Case here with me, and say, this is a result of soulful communication class. You know, be careful out there, you guys. Make sure, you know.
That's a great testimonial.
Yeah, yeah. Because again, I don't know when I took that. It was, I think, 2011 or 2012. It was, but anyway, it's pretty cool. And this is hitting home on everything I love about the work that you do, about what these practitioners bring, is that all these tools, all these technologies are extensions of us finding a way to connect and reconnect. Think about that, not with the healing art devices, tools, instruments, but even the email.
Yeah.
This technology we're on now, Facebook, Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, why are those companies went from nothing 5 years ago to now being multi-billion-dollar companies? What's the value? They know that the ability to connect trumps. There's no physical assets. What is it? It's an algorithm. It's a matrix, a code that someone figured out to help us reconnect. And so it's yet why do we feel so disconnected, right? Why are we so distracted and stuff? Because with all that distraction, we think it's all outside of us again. And you know what I mean? It's coming from within. Yet it does take discipline, I think, to retrain ourselves, and why it's important to study and to invest, because consciously knowing it is one thing, doing it is another, but what's the bridge? You know, what's the bridge from living it? And you need mentorship. You need that relationship with someone who has spent that time to do it. And that's why I encourage every practitioner to find that mentorship. The best practitioners out there had that apprenticeship type relationship, I find, you know, in some form or another. Someone who got to pass along the story, you know, and that's what I love about the information you guys are doing. You're sharing your story, really. You know, you're sharing what you've discovered and found. And so, but with that, I'll stop yapping away.
Well stated, by the way, all of it. With the internet and everything being part of it, and it is that deep longing inside of us, every single one of us, that is for connection, that's driving this whole thing. And the internet, social media, all this, what you're doing, that's all part of it. Want to tell us about the dowsing?
Yeah, I'd love to. Again, any technique or philosophy or system that we use, the value of that system, we think, is in the purpose we give it. So the purpose we give our dowsing work is to reconnect on that level, as you're saying. And that's why we actually retitled it from dowsing, which has a history. Many people, if you say dowsing, automatically they think
a label,
of
right? Yeah.
Yep. And that's fine. That's perfectly legit. But we've found that there's so much more. And again, it's all part of the time we're in and the expansion that we're all experiencing. But for us, the purpose of the dowsing work is to clear the mind of the blockages, the limitations, the overlays, the burdens that we bring with us into this existence that are simply keeping us from the experience and the knowledge of who we already are. And in other words, many of us consider ourselves seekers. We're looking for something in the future that's going to bring everything together and complete us. And yet we would only seek for something that we already had but thought we lost. In other words, if we didn't know that perfection, it wouldn't be pulling us into the future. And our understanding is it's already there. We just need to release the blockages and the limitations, and that's where the dowsing work comes in. What we've discovered is that the pendulum acts as a biofeedback instrument, albeit very simple. It's merely an extension of subtle changes in your own nervous system as a result of the changes in your mind. And so it gives us a visual feedback, you might say, out here in the level of the form of material world of what's going on the subtler levels. And fundamental to our understanding of dowsing is a model of the mind, which we like to use the illustration of an iceberg. The conscious mind, the part that thinks or thinks it thinks, as it
Yeah.
says in the course, is that 10% that's above the surface. It's out in the daylight. It's so distracted by what's going on above the surface. It's typically unaware of the vast body of mind that is supporting it from
Yeah.
below, right?
Yeah,
And we
it's a
like to call
great
that the
analogy
super.
to
Yeah, it's so
use.
simple, right? We like to call that the superconscious mind because not only is it the memory of all of our experiences, not only in this life, but in all timelines, but it's also connected through the same ocean to all other superconscious minds. And ultimately, its destiny is to merge and to melt into that ocean. So we all have this, what Deepak Chopra called years ago, the cosmic computer within
Yeah.
that gives us access to all experience and information in the universe, but the conscious mind is not aware it's there. So for us, dowsing is that bridge. We ask a question from the conscious mind to the superconscious, and if it doesn't have it in its own library, it goes out into that ocean and finds it, and it comes back and informs us through pre-programmed signals and movements of the body, similar to muscle testing in that sense, that give us that information. What we've done, and again, thanks to our mentors and teachers in this field, is we've taken it to another level where it's not only for gathering information, which is wonderful in itself. I mean,
Right.
if you get the information from that level, you've got a great compass to navigate this existence.
Yeah.
But we've also found that we can, because these things are all constructs of the mind, even our memories are only a present moment construct. Once we've found that deep level of cause of a situation, a condition, whatever is going on, we can change our minds about it. And we use what we call an active phase of dowsing, not just the information gathering, but actually through our focus. And there's quantum principles at work here, obviously. The observer effect, right? Once something is known and you use a pendulum, in this case more actively, we use the spins. And a spin is really a co-creative dynamic. You know, everything in the universe spun out of the Big Bang and continues to do so, from galaxies to subatomic particles. So we are simply playing the co-creation game when we consciously employ a spin to create a change.
Yeah, and with motion, like an atom, without motion, what and the well, the form, motion, and the pull of magnetism and energy, there is no life, right? That's the cosmic energy. I'm so excited, you guys, to share with you this study, because you guys really were you all the information I've heard from you and from the mentors in this past. It's really a special time from within me that I'm excited to start sharing more and more of. And there's something, again, we're going to chat about later this week, next week, whenever, that you're gonna get it. You're gonna go, Jake, yeah,
Nice.
my son, my little, my Jedi Knight, good job. You're starting to put it together, but it's coming together, and it really is influencing all aspects of my life. And it's almost, well, it's called like almost like a chrysalis. I'm transforming and I can never go back.
That's right.
Once you know these principles, and I'm sure it's the same with you and with, I get stuck at many times, but the more I learn, the more I practice, the less stuck I get, and the easier it is to recalibrate. And like you said, use tools I have to as a compass to get and navigate back on track. But the way you explain that, as a way to tap in to that lower, or all the other levels of consciousness that we're connected with, and have it as a almost like an exercise or something that you have access to. Just knowing you have that is I mean, reassuring. And I want to chat with you more about that on a personal level, so I can get some of those instruments for myself and family. But in terms of how you explained it, that's the first time I've ever heard it explained. And then the way you're using it, not just to, let's say, find the answers or assess, but to, well, use it as more, let's say, therapeutic or breaking through and moving forward, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it makes
I'd
perfect
like
sense.
to offer you, actually, Jake, a personal session
Yeah.
sometime whenever when you're available, and we can coordinate that so that you can have your own direct experience of what we're talking about.
Let's make that happen. And after the call, I'm in. Let's put it on the calendar, because I know let's set another date for talking about some of these connection tools we're on now. So absolutely, Dave, I'll take you up on that. I would love to. And
Stellar idea, and I'll throw it out to Lisa, by the way. Anyway, I just want to say that I appreciate what you said about calibration. You mentioned that we're about recalibrating. That's exactly what we're doing with all these modalities. Anything we're using, including the dowsing, which we find to be, out of anything we've worked with, one of the quickest, most efficient ways to recalibrate, because each of us is having an experience here as a sovereign entity. We have our feelings. We're navigating through a quantum field that we're all part of. We're part of one living system, and yet each of us within that system has a separate experience of that. And we get off balance. We get chaotic because we're all operating together. Everybody's fears, everybody's experience. I have a thought; it's immediately part of the whole. The whole could be part of the hold too if I don't let it go. But anyway, and so we're always recalibrating. So all these tools we're using, and just going within and recognizing it's all for the purpose of coming to that internal peace that allows us to recognize ourselves as an equal, equally contributing and equally receiving part of this living system that's just marvelous. It's bringing us back to union.
Yeah, and it's so with that. Well said, Erina, and I agree. I concur, and I, as one of your students, and I'm a believer of that. That all these instruments are designed for that. I have a question that's a little off the cuff, because it's something I personally have struggles with. Because of these man-made laws that are living on that top tip of the iceberg. Okay, our mortgage payments, our constant, like, we still need to operate in this, let's call it, low resonating world of tasks and of and elements. How do you both find balance sometimes when you're really being tested? I mean, I know you can. I mean, what is kind of a marker for you when you know, okay, time to recalibrate, right? Like, what's an indicator? What's a light that goes off in maybe a circumstance, because it happens. I mean, we have to show up. I have to get up, and I've got to get up, get my son loved, taken care of, fed before help comes, if they do come. If not, I've got to juggle calls and make sure people are getting information and emails and trying to request, I call them freedom units, right? Money, freedom units is energy. It's just like food and water to me. You need them. It's not positive, negative. It's just energy. But you got to do elements and be accountable. And I know we're all connected at that deeper level. Yet you have to operate you have to operate in this illusion above that on the iceberg many times. So how and when is a tip or strategy of how you can, you can not walk both lines, but continue to grow, continue to thrive, and move forward and expand your consciousness while also handling business. Does that make sense?
Certainly. And the greatest, I think, indicator of how lost we are in that game is our peace. Erina actually talks about the inner peace meter, and the acceptance that our natural state is 100% peaceful.
Yeah.
And if we're not experiencing that in the moment, then the moment is giving us an opportunity to go within and reclaim that peace.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most constructive way to look at our experience in the world of duality, separation, and conflict is that it is a school. And if we're not here to learn, then what the heck's it for anyway? You know,
Yeah.
to get the most toys and die. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so we have to repurpose our experience here to, okay, I'm in Earth School. I'm here to master certain understandings and lessons.
You
And if
are.
I don't get it this time around, guess what? I get to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
And we keep taking those classes over and over until we master them. And what we're mastering is the understanding that who we are is not limited to the experiences I'm having here. That we are multidimensional beings, and beyond that, we are the one relationship, you might say, that is having this experience on a universal level. And we can actually walk between the worlds, as Greg Braden called it. First of all, by recognizing that this body and this experience in time and space is not who I am. It's one small facet or expression of who I am. And I can, even in this expression, reconnect and reacquaint myself with the totality of who I am through training my mind, through repurposing the reason I'm here, and growing. And as you said, once you even get a glimmer of that, there's no going back.
Yeah.
Everything is transformed. Your world changes when the light breaks through. And it's the destiny of each and every one of us, just like it's the destiny of every seed that's underground that thinks it's in the darkness and all alone. It's the destiny of each and every one of us to awaken. From the metaphysics of the Course in Miracles, it actually says all of this is already over. We're just revisiting it in a dream state.
And in terms of how and when do we get ourselves back on track when we do feel thrown off? Because let's face it, we experience that every day. Yeah. Every one of us. We all have our things that we have to contend with, families and work and finances and all of that. And so you do just pay attention to being present. Eckhart Tolle, we love you. Power of Now. You just keep at least 10% awareness on how you feel in each moment. Be in the body. We're much more effective when we're aware of how we're feeling, how just paying attention to how the body feels. When I feel like I'm getting out of balance, I recalibrate by simply taking a couple breaths and paying attention to the moving into my body. That alone will put me into a greater state of peace. When we're in a state of peace, our mind goes out of chaos into clarity, and we're able to respond to every situation from a much more enlightened, inspired state, and we respond rather than react.
Yes, and you just explained in 1 minute 30 seconds the value of all these stress reduction techniques. I mean, and it is a one-way street. Once you learn these, they have to be, I think, still exercised and practiced so that 10% is kind of maintained and there at the time. But it's just the physiological and, let's call it, biological systems of taking a breath and taking that not reactive state is profound on individuals, on the families and the people around them, but also on a more, let's call it macro, on the community, the global, even this conflicts we are seeing overseas and this constant fear-based type mentality of the, again, we're not getting into the multimedia empires that understand that, the human condition. And I think this is something else, and why this is so profound on not just our individual personal wellness, our family or our practice and our clients or patients, but why it's profound and so important to get out there for the local, state, the regional, the world's political and different elements is that, and this goes back to a lot of the teachings, David, and Erina, you've brought forth in that transition time in the 2012 awakening, and that time where, you know, understanding. And but let me explain, and I'll get to the last question. I'm tying this together here. I'm holding tight. I'm trying too hard. Focus.
You're doing great.
It's the focus call. That's why. Okay. But if you look at this, like, okay, Russia, Putin, ISIS, you know, Iraq, Baltimore, Ferguson, all these conflicts and these, it's operating in the dualistic, that mentality that we've talked about in the past, and our audience knows and is aware of. If not, you're going to wake up to it, whether you're aware of it or not. You're going to start seeing it. But and this, I had a Facebook chat with an old, one of my best friend's fathers who was on. His mom lives in Baltimore and is afraid. And he posted a beautiful post that, pray for my mom. She's afraid for the young Black youth, her fellow community and young Black youth there, because of the reactive state that they're in, and the inability to tap into what we're talking about. And so I posted along, you know, he's always open and always encouraged us to share. And he was a coach there, right by you guys, Casey Junior High, Mr. Charles and Chuck Snowden. And he lives, I think, in New Mexico now. But the thing is, I commented on it. The political government who's going to give us free community college, like that's a solution for this. Yeah. Or more funds and money into the inner city community. Or even pointing blame at the family units being severed. Those are all symptoms. Those are all symptoms of the cause. And getting to the root is the inability and the disconnect of each individual. And unfortunately, we are miasmic beings. I mean, I don't think the sins of our father we're destined to, but they damn sure influence us. They damn sure are programmed to make us believe we are destined for that. And so the inability for the young youth, and I'm specifically talking about the young Black youth, who I personally I care about, not just that community, any young individual who doesn't have at least the opportunity to get this information, that they are in control of, they have a power to choose to personal freedom over the fear. But see, it's not as simple as that. It does take, and this goes back to some of these old cliches, but it takes a village to raise a child. It takes the guidance and the medicine man and the mom and the dad or the uncle. It's not just not having a father there, but a positive male and female balanced role models are important. I'm not getting into, you know, traditional marriage is wrong or right. No, but we need these influences in our life to shape us, nurture us, coach us, and remind us that it is not outside of us and it's from within. That is what I wrote in this long-winded, I should have been doing other things, but it sparked something in me. And it gets back to reminding people that we are awakening the power for people to choose that personal freedom. And it's really relevant to what we were sharing. And that's how we'll see the real change in the world start happening.
Well, you've captured the essence of of the times when you mentioned the balance between the male and the female energy, because that's what's going on energetically right now. We're seeing a harmonization of the male energy, what we call the wounded male archetype, which has been raging on the planet for so long, we're almost used to it. And to the denigration of the female, and what the female also represents, the nurturance, the caring, the value of the community, all that. This is all coming into harmony and balance. We're seeing it holographically in so many realms on the planet right now. But the insanity of the world, as you were describing that, reminds me of Eckhart Tolle. We have a recording of his that was made the day after 9/11. And the commentator was saying, are you sure you want to do this? You know, everybody's so upset. Are you sure you want to go ahead with this interview? And he said, well, of course, I'm not surprised by 9/11 at all, because the world is insane. It's the outpicturing of the ego. And the ego is our insane self, the self that we've created within our own imaginations to explain to ourselves the human condition.
Mm.
And it developmentally, I suppose, it you know, may have had a purpose at one time to differentiate us, to give us a sense of protection, but we're outgrowing it. The ego itself is the disease, and the answer, the solution, is what it's covering up, which is the fact, the inner knowledge that we are one, that we are innocent, divine, and perfect. That spark of memory is within each and every living thing. And the best that we can do individually to help heal the collective is to know that for ourselves. We spontaneously, automatically teach the collective each time we rise our heads above the clouds of our own separation and illusion and embrace that joy, that peace, that light within.
That's that lighting up, that firing that we said earlier of those neurons in the brains. Each one of us is responsible for that. For thousands of years, we've been working on fixing the problems out there. One government gets overturned, a new one takes place, they get crooked, and the next one goes down. I mean, really, historically, take a look at it. For thousands of years, why would we think it would be different now? It's time to go within, wake up, and that's actually where we become responsive and joined in united purpose of creating a peaceful world together. And it's a exciting game, and here we are all given an opportunity to be playing.
Well, you guys, this conversation organically went into the last question I have, and which we've been actually discussing here for the last 5 minutes. But to add a little bit, and with the last question, and then I want to ask you about the upcoming course and how people can get involved. But with everything that we just talked about, what do you feel the role is of our healers? What's the role of the healing arts and our let's call it the coaches, the awakeners that want to go and share this in this time and the present now?
It's really simple and really so complexity, just like you talked about Apple, why they're and Google, why they're so big is because they've learned how to simplify things that we can understand a very complex system. Because we're all going back to simplification. We are simple. Truth is simple. Complexity was the creation of the ego. So to simplify, the practitioner that wants to best help others and really make the largest impact will take responsibility for their mind and their heart and a daily diligence to putting that as number one and show up in the world coming from that place in that vibration.
Beautiful. Well said. And, you know, instead of the war on drugs and the war on terror, there should be the war on ego.
We're in.
There you go.
And I wouldn't even give it that much credit.
No, don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Actually, a great quote, and I don't even remember who said it, but I thought it was just such a great way to look at it, is that we don't need to kill the ego off. We just stop taking it so seriously.
Right. Yeah, because the ego is actually it's fun when it's fun to play with. Well, here we go. It's all about a relationship. It's all about a relationship with oneself and being aware. And you said something, Erina, profound. And when I was talking about, like, you know, how the communities and the kids can change, it's all just raising awareness. You know, the unawareness and consciousness of their surroundings, of their actions do affect. And what happened with that police officer and that just tragic circumstance is something that we are all connected. We feel that, yet their true contribution is going inside and making a contribution from within that is, you know, meaningful, constructive. And it's cool to see the media, and I love media, man, and how they spin stuff. It's just profound, and that's a different conversation. But with that said, the relationships. Can you guys share with me the course in relationships that you guys are offering?
Sure. And if I may, I'd like to plug my latest book here.
Yes.
Beyond Illusions, which again explores a lot of these themes. It's also available on Amazon. Seeing Beyond Illusions.
Awesome book.
Okay, beautiful. And I'm gonna put in here. I'll I'll reference that with the replay and get that definitely
Thanks.
locked
Nice.
in.
It really helps people
Yeah.
ground this.
I can't wait to show you guys this platform, because you're going to be able to set it up with your due diligence, and it's going to serve so many people in a great way. But go ahead. What's up with the course? Yeah.
Well, the course that you guys were in, I believe, was called Soulful Communication at the time, and
Right.
we've continued with that. We adapted it more to an online presence, and we would still be doing that, other than the fact that we wanted to take it up to another notch. And so we've incorporated the principles, the practices of soulful communication into a course in relationship, where we're going to be focusing more on healing relationships in our everyday lives as a practice, not just for the sake of the relationship, but for our own sake, as our own pathway to awakening, you might say, through the media of relationship. And of course, the benefit of that is that the relationship heals spontaneously. So this course, our launch, it's a 7-week program starting on May 7th, and we do have a couple of seats left. We do keep the numbers down so that we can have, you know, good communication and the people that work together, so that we can have a, you know, kind of an intimate group. But again, anybody, if we do overbook at this time, we'll either start a second tier, or we'll move it. We'll do another one further out. But it's a course that we're really excited about, because it incorporates a lot of the principles and ideas we've been talking about here today, with practical activities between the classes, where people can try these ideas out for themselves and prove them for themselves. Again, as I think you alluded to earlier, you can have all these ideas and concepts, but until you bring them into experience, that's all they are. The true knowledge is experiential. So we want to give people a safe container where they can learn to navigate a relationship from a different perspective, try out some practical ideas, techniques, insights, put it to work in their relationships, and begin to grow that sense of expansion and joy, which again is our natural birthright.
And I want to say that you came to one of our weekend classes when we had that, and at first we were hesitant about being able to pull it off in a powerful way as an online program. It's online and interactive phone calls, and what we found is it's profoundly impactful. And doing it this way, and really it's quite interactive, has been a game changer and life changer for folks. Aside from your darling son and your testimonial, we had, I guess, a testimonial that was a real powerful one with a student that came on board last year. She was having such a tough time in her life with her family and so forth. She had just gotten a prescription of antidepressants right before our class started. She started her class. Her testimonial is she never had to take one.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's great, and that you answered a question there, Erina. That's a great testimonial. I mean, the like you was like she pulled up to the cliff, and you know, had the right direction to navigate from going off that. And I do want to share my testimonial as a real share story in a minute. But you answered a question, and I have a question on behalf of the listeners, and regarding the online format. I remember in class, and I know it's evolving from what we did in that streamlined intense workshop. How do you do the coupling or the teamwork exercises? You mentioned it. Do they have a partner? If say they didn't come with their spouse or a friend or colleague, how do they do some of those interactive practices through the online platform? I'm just curious, and I know
we organize them in groups of 3.
Okay.
And actually, if a couple comes into the class, we encourage them not to be part of the groups of 3, because there's too much familiarity, too much conditioning there.
Yeah, I
so
remember.
We put people together in groups of 3. They get together on conference calls, and we assign them one of 3 roles: a speaker, a listener, and an observer. And we describe, you know, how those roles work for them, etc. And so the speaker gets a real opportunity to unburden their mind, just to really put everything out on the table, again, in an atmosphere that is completely accepting, completely safe, and without any judgment. And by that, what we mean is that the listener is trained not to respond from their own fears, egos, input, desire to help from a human level, but just to be present. It's about cultivating.
I have a spin-off course for you guys that is so relevant. You have no idea. And but thank you. That connected the dots, and that just brought back the course for me, and how profound it was with having practice and some guidance and simplicity on how to be aware and listen to what role one is in each circumstance during that day, that life with Lisa, my wife, or my coworkers. I kind of identified, okay, I'm just the observer here. Okay, I know my role. I'm an active contributor. I'm speaking. I'm on stage. It's time to share. Be conscious of what's coming, or I'm listening, right? And doing those active listening exercises. We still joke around and still refer to in the peace prayer, the Hawaiian peace prayer, forgive me,
Ho'oponopono.
But yeah, I can never pronounce it right, so I won't try.
A lot of vowels in that language.
But I know it. I use it. And real quick to wrap things off, I'm going to share a personal story, and then I'm going to ask how people can get connected with you guys. But I'm going to share our experience. We're going to that, and I do want to thank the Quantum Alliance, Brian and Lori at the time. They treated us to that for our engagement gift. And I want to honor them, those individuals, for that, because it was profound. So we went there. It was where was that, in Escondido, or no? It was out in Southern Cal. Carlsbad. That's right. They're on the water. And we showed up, and I was, I love this type of work. I crave it, right? I crave these live interactions, workshops, because I'm an instigator of communication. I'll pick sometimes, at least, to try to get some reaction out of her, right? When I get on something and I get this wonderful trait and this beautiful gift from my dad of not letting things go, right? Just pound. So we show up. Lisa's skeptical. She's aware of the work I'm doing, but not as connected in terms of growing up with it the way I have. Two different worlds we came from. Her family, small family. Her brother, her father, her mother, mom and dad have been loving a team ever since they've been, ever since Lisa's been born. They still are. Ken, wonderful, very humble, silent, consistent father, loving, works for General Motors, has since college, 9 to 5, very consistent, structured life. Diane, just an angel. I call her my angel-in-law, because when she comes, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm this freedom just like pops up, because I know little man's taken care of. She comes from this very just beautiful, and there's no wrong or right here. It's about her programs have been very cleanly organized. Let's say that. And then you go to the Cunningham, Jake and the Cunninghams, where grew up in a very progressive, open-minded community. Parents got into this work, Macrobiotic Foods, had their own entrepreneur business, Rolling Greens, which now my little brother and Lindsay, by the way, in Boulder, I'm going to do a shout out for them. Rolling Greens, they got their first millet tots in Wild Oats down there, and they have a food cart. So go see them at the farmer's market and around. You'll see them cruising. But with that turmoil, 4 kids, divorce, supported, loved us unconditionally. We never felt that, but there's a relationship strain on an influence and in the psyche of any family, any people that go through that. Entrepreneurs, on all the time with business, just a completely like left and right field coming together with Lisa and myself. This course, while we got to go and exercise, and it was really, really, I think, phenomenal that you broke us apart. And she had to not bear and be thinking of all of what her fiance, me, thought of what she got to be and create new relationships with people she's still connected with today.
Oh, wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ellen Stern.
Yeah.
You know, they still have they don't speak all the time, but there's an intimate connection there.
Sure.
That Lisa helped her with their website a few years ago. They chat with. I mean, there is a connection that is unbroken. You can't ever break it. But we got to learn how to listen to each other and know our roles. That was profound. And going into our marriage, I understand why the Catholic Church has like marriage school. You know, I mean, I get it. I'm not saying I agree with all the belief systems. What I'm saying is there needs to be that attention given to learning how to communicate, listen, and also know the role of how to listen, share, but also and have a voice. And that's something it gave Lisa, which I can't thank you both enough for, is that transformed both of us, but it gave us an ability so that my overpowering personality and voice didn't mute her.
Nice.
And eventually crush us. Because thinking back, and I can't say that for sure, but it possibly could have definitely led to us not having this journey still thrive. And there's a lot of practitioners there too. We weren't coming from that position, but even with clients, even the ability for me to know my role when someone's calling and I want to share all the goody tools and how it's going to change their life and just transform their practice. No. Jake, shut up. Zip it, pal. Listen to where they're coming from. Get to know them in that discovery process, and you know, edify and assure them that you are actually actively listening, and then it transforms all realms, not just as a practitioner or in your personal life. It's helped me be a better, let's call it neuron in this place, like you said, Erina, and that is invaluable. It's priceless. And so really, with that said, I can't give you guys more, and I'm excited to be through my transition of moving to a new state, new marriage, new house, new mortgage, new son. My biggest, most blessed and grateful gift that's been brought into my life, and it's really helped me get through the transition, having that as part of my understanding and who I am as a person, to now be able to serve again and get connected with people like you again, to share what you're doing and to share the tools and the instruments that I feel make a difference in people's worlds as well. And so that I'm forever grateful, you guys, and I can't thank you enough. And I really recommend sincerely from the bottom of Jake Cunningham's heart that you really need to seriously consider this course for you, and everything else will be influenced. It's for you. It's for your own growth so you can contribute better. If you think your husband needs it and someone else needs it, well, maybe they do too. But you can only start with you, right? And that's something that
it's all about you.
But so with that said, you guys, how can people get involved and how can people connect and get registered for the course? Please share how that can happen, and any final words as we wrap up the call.
I just want to mention that in addition to the program, the course that's coming up on May 7th, and the next one won't be until the fall. So if anyone out there that's watching this feels that, you know, this is really calling you, you might want to consider jumping on board because it'll be nice to go into the summer a little cleaner and brighter in all of your relationships. And the other two ways that we support people right now is we do personal sessions, and we've also been working with couples individually. So the two of us have a program that's not yet on our site, just wanted to give it a nod, where it will be. We're actually creating a new site, which I'll mention in a second, but we are working with couples, and we've had profound experiences and feedback from couples. In fact, even to the point where we've had couples that were on the verge of living separately that didn't go that route that are still together. And it's just really helping everybody grow and expand and open themselves in ways that you just mirrored
Yeah,
beautifully, by the
I
way.
understand that. Absolutely.
So that's another option. They can contact us at info@bluesunenergetics.net. And our website is bluesunenergetics.net.
Not .com.
Not .com, just .net. And we are opening up, it's not active yet, but we'll be within this next week. We're opening a new site called acourseinrelationship.com.
Nice. Beautiful. Now
Mhm.
that is that's I see it, and I that's exciting, you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a that is the that's the how can I say it? That is a brand under the Blue Sun Energetics umbrella,
Mhm.
like other elements people brought forth and our teachers and mentors, the Course of Miracles. I love it, you guys. I'm right there, and I want to help bring that out to the world, and that's another discussion. But I am committed to that as a new partnership moving forward to help connect, and I'm looking forward to also Dave taking you up on your offer for
Uh-huh.
a personal one-on-one, and Erina, also Lisa, that would mean the world to us,
Mm-hmm.
because it's been a good 2 years of learning how to be parents and um, starting a new company and realigning with what's important for us,
Yep.
and
Nice.
Yep.
it's relationships, and our most important relationships are the ones that make us feel happy, make us feel good, and that's what we want. We have some fun. It's
Yeah.
time to have some fun again. I'm tired of you know letting, and it's in this, but this is the need for this work, because even knowing what I know and grew up with, I still struggle. So the people who haven't ever been exposed to this, right? And like
Mhm.
an example, you guys, is Case got a he's been great. He's had a couple little fevers, and we've let him go through. His immune system's strong, no vaccinations, and our pediatrician's great and supports us with that. But he had a pretty bad fever, little earache, and seeing that pain on that little man's face, and
Mhm.
that suffering in terms of the physical acute,
Yes.
pain, infection. I mean, knowing what I know, I even consider going and getting some acute intervention, antibiotics, something like that. Even knowing what I know,
Yeah.
being aware of that's a cover up, that's a band-aid, that's gonna cause
Mhm.
more harm than hurt. Let this man fight this and struggle. um it taught me, it reminded me how much awakening and consistency and awareness on this information has to be continued to be taught and showed up in this way. And
That's the repurposing of time, Jake. That's the new purpose we give time. If we have time on our hands or appear to, what are we going to do with it? Why don't we repurpose it to our own awakening and to
yeah,
training our minds to be consistent in that understanding and not judge ourselves or beat ourselves up when we fall off the cart,
right.
but just get back on again and know that the end result has already been given. The
Hmm.
end result is guaranteed. It's almost like we're reviewing in sports, right? We're in the instant replay. We already know what happened, but we're in the replay.
Yeah, we're in
And
and
life
that.
doesn't have to be a struggle. We're letting go of that belief system and that
Right.
paradigm, and we're creating, we're actually getting back to what's true.
Yeah, we're getting back to that oneness that you brought into my life with the concept around that. And it's but we need the knowledge, we need the information, yet we need
Mhm.
also the I think the coaching and the practice, right, to
Yeah.
integrate it, because again, it's all these protective mechanisms and reactions were designed. I think you said it really great, Dave, they served a purpose at some time in our consciousness evolution, right?
Uh-huh.
We had to be defensive and protect the village from the bear, or do all those analogies we're familiar with, you know.
Yeah.
But there's no bears coming into this little lakefront place here. I mean, if anything, a squirrel might get in the attic or something. I mean, so it's like I think that's why we don't have the skill. It's like, oh, here's a great analogy. Franklin Covey, he co-wrote the 7 Habits of Successful People. Or we all know that gentleman, but he Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, this new young mentor of mine I read, and he is money. He is just the way he says and communicates the same information that they've all said is that we all have a choice to choose freedom, personal freedom, over the fear. But at the end of the day, it's a consciousness, it's a reminder, and I think surrounding ourselves with people of like mind is important. Thus, why it's important to connect and attend and commit to some of these elements, like your course. And I'm a personal living testimony that it works. And I think too, the healer complex of trying to help everyone. To finish things off, I have a last question, and I know we're going over, but what do the old say, like, just because not having this information, and having a tool or something that could help everyone, it may help everyone that buys in, yet not everybody's ready. What do you think is the most impactful way to influence others? And I know I have an answer, but how can people contribute more? How are they going to serve more people in the work that they want to do?
David, do you want to do it?
Yeah, I guess
it's kind of everything we talked about. I mean, I have an answer in my head, but I want to hear kind of the succinct. Wrap this up, Dave, on what's a focus or a goal for everybody to do to serve more people.
I think we've come full circle to where we began this conversation. And by the way, thank you for that testimony. That's why we're in it, Jake.
Yeah.
To hear those stories. And but it's to come full circle to the idea that I only ever experience myself. That my experience of you is an internal process within myself, that you are the mirror to my state of mind in the present moment. And in that way, everybody is my teacher. You are my teacher in this moment. And to kind of bring it all home, it not only, it takes courage to do that, because it's a complete reversal of our thought system. And that's, I suppose, the value of suffering, is that if we suffer long enough, a little spark goes off in the mind, says there has to be a better way. There has to be another way of dealing with this or being here. And it's that point of turnaround where we begin to take responsibility. And if we're not there yet, that's okay, because it's each and every one of us, our destiny to come to that point, to come to that decision. Hearing the information, however, like listening to this broadcast, can spark that will within. And really, that's what it is. It's the awakening of the divine will. And that divine will to live, to grow, to extend, to love is within each and every one of us. And it is one with the divine will. There's no separation here between the will of the Creator and your will and my will. It's one will waking up to itself. So if it hasn't happened yet, love yourself. If it's happening, love yourself. It really does come back to the simplicity of taking full responsibility for who we are. And we are all beautiful. We are all beautiful extensions of unconditional love.
And unconditional love is unconditional freedom. Loving somebody enough to let them find their own empowerment and their own answers, and not feeling the urgency that they need to do it your way or quick or any of that. Unconditional love, unconditional freedom, and unconditional forgiveness. Just letting go of the stories we build around our relationships.
Right.
And it's so simple, and it's so easy when we look at it that way and start practicing it.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I want to thank you for what you do, first of all. and I'm really happy to reconnect with you both. Thanks for taking the time on this Friday morning, and I look forward to the future, and the contribution that the work you're doing in this consciousness. I'm looking forward to the changes that we're going to see unfold, and
Me too.
Yeah.
I really am, and I believe that it is coming because I'm witnessing it, I'm seeing it, and it.
Yep.
Yes.
But it's you're right. It's because it's coming from within.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's a commitment there too.
Yep.
I'm committed to grow. I'm committed to learn and not, to work on myself. And I think that's something a lot of our practitioners and the listeners out there, you also share. That's one common thread along the healing arts, that they understand. The more
Mhm.
they learn, the more almost
Anyone
humble.
who's
Yeah.
anyone who's in the healing arts, the reason you're in it is because you've had your own healing experience. You've had a taste
Right.
of that within yourself, and there's really nothing else to do here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That counts. That makes a difference. That's why you're in it.
Yeah. Well said. Well, you guys, everybody go to bluesunenergetics.net, not .com, and contact David and Erina Cowan for more information about their courses. And everybody have a wonderful Friday. Thanks for joining us on the Friday Focus. David and Erina, I'll let you have the last goodbye and words, and have a wonderful weekend. Let's set up some times. Even after the call here, I may call you and maybe we can plant some seeds of dates for some of our future meetings. I'd love to have you on again, and to see where this all goes. I'm excited. So last thoughts, words, and then we'll wrap things up on the focus.
Sure.
Okay.
We didn't tell folks about our free clearing calls,
Oh, yes.
which is also on our homepage. Every second Monday, we do free calls where you can experience mind field repatterning for yourself on a conference call. And just thank you, everyone, for being committed, as I know you are. If you're on this recording, you are committed to the same process we are, and we join with you in celebrating. It's already happened. It's already happened. We're just in the process of waking up to it. So thank you for being part of this.
And thank you. And Jake, thank you. It's so wonderful to reconnect with you again and to see what you're doing. What a wonderful gift and expression, letting the divine move through you this way, connecting people and helping them recalibrate. And just amazing, and love to everybody out there too. And as David said, we're all in this together, and it is happening. And we pay attention to channels that aren't necessarily mainstream, and we see that even on the level of form on this beautiful planet of ours, there's such a foundation of change already occurring despite what it looks like. So keep the peace inside. Don't get carried away with the chaos, because you don't have to. That's only a choice. And the foundation is already here, and we are creating a new way to live together in unity.
Beautiful. Well, you guys, love you. Have a wonderful weekend. Until next time, everybody stay focused, stay happy, stay healthy, and let's stay connected and have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.